Welcome to The Bridge, an urban church planting podcast by the Arkansas Baptist State Convention. Hear personal stories, practical tips, and missional strategies to bring you insights and encouragement on your church planting journey. Coming to you live from Little Rock, here are your hosts, Neal Scoggins and Chanson Newborn.
Welcome to another edition of The Bridge. This is Chanson Newborn along with Neal Scoggins. How are you, Neal?
Hello, Chanson Newborn. It's so happy that you... Man, listen, in all honesty, Chanson, I am excited about this episode. Now, I'm going to say that about every episode that we have. Because I am excited about every single episode that we have. But you know what? This one kind of is near and dear to my heart for a couple of reasons. Number one, we have our friend, Pastor Basil Joiner from Bay, Arkansas, St. Paul Baptist Church in Bay, Arkansas. So we're excited that he is here. Basil Joiner, how are you, sir?
Fine, good. Good to be here with you guys and sharing in this interesting topic that's dear to both of our hearts.
Yeah, man. Listen, first of all, let me just say this. Thank you so much for taking time to have a conversation with us on today. During these last couple of episodes of The Bridge, since it's summertime and people are, we're airing this for the very first time during the summertime, there's some planters and pastors. There are a couple of things that we really kind of need to deal with. Here's a tough topic. We're talking about self-care. So when we state the term, Joiner, self-care, what's the first thing that actually comes to your mind? What's the first thing that you mention when we talk about self-care?
Well, when I look at self-care, it comes more or less from a mental aspect of it. I think that since, if I can go on record and say we're post-pandemic, that during the pre-pandemic period, there were a lot of pastors that I was contacted by, rather was on the telephone or virtual, that were dealing with a lot of issues of anxiety, dealing with the unknown, uncertain about what's going on and what's to come after. However, I took it as an opportunity to look at this from a theological perspective, a psychological perspective, as well as socially, how we seek to find answers to help pastors get through this pandemic along while pastoring their flocks. So
that's tough.
It's a big task for us.
Let me hit you with this. So Basil, you are a behavior health specialist, correct? So you do this for a living.
Yes, sir. I've been doing this for a little over 20 years, from acute assessments to residential assessments, children, adolescents, adults, as well as geriatric assessments.
Wow. You're also, go ahead.
In addition to that, we have assessment retreats where we bring planters in and take them through a process of assessing them. And you serve on our team as a counselor, and assessing our planters as well. And we certainly appreciate you serving in that capacity, serving our planters. So how long? You said a couple of decades you've been in this industry.
And let me go on record and say this: my assessments are screenings because I'm in the process of being licensed. So I don't want any licensed clinician to get out here and say, "Oh, he's doing assessments, is not licensed."
But we want to give your credentials and let our listeners know, your experience and that you're speaking from a place of experience.
Yeah, I understand. I just want to go on record because someone will call the board.
We understand.
Yeah, you're a licensed. You're a real deal assessor, though. You're a real deal assessor, so you can assess those situations that are actually going on. Also, now we got to say this. So, Basil, we're so grateful for you for a couple of things, and then we'll get kind of deeper in the conversation. But you've been a part of the Arkansas Baptist State Convention family as an affiliate. Your church has St. Paul Baptist Church in Bay, Arkansas, for how long has the church been a part of?
It's within 5 to 10 years. Look, the opportunity and the experience has been so great that I've lost track of time.
Gotcha.
So you look, it's like I should have been in a long time ago.
Yeah,
so I'm etched in stone right now.
Yeah, I hear you.
And he also served on the Delta Network Association leadership team.
That's right.
So you've been in the family for a while. And so we just wanted to put that out there to let people know that you're not new to this, but you're true to this. So you've been in this for a while. And so we thank you for being in our Arkansas Baptist State Convention family.
Yeah. Yeah, we appreciate it. Listen, so you're receiving these phone calls. So are these, I mean, what's some of the top things that folks are asking about as it relates to care and all of that? I mean, what are some of the things? And I know we are in like you said, we're in a unique place, whether we are post-pandemic, latter pandemic. It's kind of like the conversation about tribulation. We're either pre, mid, or post. I don't know where we are. We may be mid-pandemic. I don't know. But what are some of the top things that pastors are having conversations about with you?
One is excessive worry. Two, they were having difficult sleeping and restlessness. Some of them were even dealing with increased heart rates. And I think that's really triggered. They were fatigued. I don't know if they were fatigued by just not being able to get out, not necessarily knowing what to do. And even with us throughout the Arkansas Baptist State Convention, the more we got online and started doing virtual sessions, one that really resonates with me, I forgot who was facilitating it, but we were dealing with connecting, reaching, and impacting our members through this pandemic. And it's simply by just receiving a text, picking up the telephone call and saying, I'm thinking about you, praying for you, or just having a virtual session and just let people express themselves. So I think that was something good for me that I could share with other ministers throughout the region and the Delta of how they can cope with this pandemic while they were dealing with their own self-care through this anxiety issue.
Yeah, that's major. So, we talk about self-care, but I mean, what are the barriers really to self-care? Because let me just tell you this. We were talking earlier about a conversation I believe that you had with a pastor. Of course, can't share anything because of confidentiality, but can you share a little bit about that conversation that you had that you were kind of concerned about with this pastor and some of the recommendations that you made with that pastor?
Yeah, well, with any true servant of Christ, you put people before self.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that this pastor is known for this, of putting others before him. And he was dealing with the issue of not being able to get out, dealing with that worry about coming in contact with his members. Them coming in contact with him, not being able to reach out and touch.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that many pastors experience, not being able to actually touch their flock.
Yeah.
And for this one, he shared with me that he was experiencing the issues of not sleeping, restlessness, sitting in a dark room. Our goal was just to try to get him to walk outside, get some sunlight, walk around in his yard. And yet that was an uphill journey at one time in trying to do an intervention with him.
Why do you think it was an uphill journey for him? Why do you feel like it was a challenge for him to even take the next step to get to get the healing and get the help that he needs?
Well, I think one is television. when you, if you sit in front of the TV and you start listening at what CNN, Fox, ABC, Dr. Fauci, and other health experts are talking about, you get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then you just have a pot of uncertainty. So therefore, dealing with that uncertainty again and causing you to worry, we didn't know if you could go outside and get COVID.
Yeah.
And and people were literally, you couldn't come to their houses. You have to, they talk through you through the door. And my thing was, look, man, just go out in your backyard. It's fenced. It's nothing out there but the dog, but you still didn't know what to do. So that was the part of just trying to get him to get some fresh air.
Yeah.
You know, I'm no expert or doctor, but I know that just going outside and even just watching the birds should give him a serene experience that he can just look up and breathe.
You know what? Here's a term specifically. There are two things I kind of want to address with that. You're talking about getting that pastor to go outside, get some fresh air, and the whole deal. And we're talking again about self-care. Why do you think there is such opposition in the urban community about even dealing with, you know, I didn't hear the word sabbatical until I
was in seminary.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, we were in school before I even heard of what a sabbatical was.
Yeah.
I mean, the
meaning of sabbatical.
Yeah, the meaning of sabbatical. I would have instructors in undergrad that would disappear for a while and come back with a book. I thought there was part of the. Why do you think there was such opposition? Or maybe there's not opposition. Maybe you can, you know, but I remember sitting, I'm going to tell you this. I remember sitting on a mental health board that was sponsored by UAMS, the University of Arkansas and Medical Sciences here in Little Rock. And we were talking about, which they were trying to, you talked about earlier, bridging the gap between mental health and clergy. But there was such an opposition to even have that conversation. Why do you think that in the urban community, there is such opposition to that?
Well, excellent question, Neal. The thing is, I've been working throughout my career and had the privilege of CEOs allowing us to go outside the box as it relates to mental health. And we started targeting the religious community and called it a series of bridging healthcare and ministry.
Okay.
And to answer your question, when you talk about what is one of the problems, it was just a problem in the Black community with African-American preachers or pastors dealing with the mental health side of things anyway. We believe you pray,
that's right. Yep.
And you go on and you'll be all right in the morning.
Yeah.
And that's systemic throughout our culture.
Yeah.
And when you start talking about sabbatical, that means that while I'm gone to somebody's going to take my church.
Wow.
And so we just might as well keep it real.
That's right. That's right.
And when you talk about sabbatical, a lot of pastors have suffered. Their families have suffered. Their congregations have suffered, all because the pastor did not take the proper care for himself.
Yeah.
There are times, and I encourage pastors to go on a real vacation, to leave.
What does that look like? What's a real vacation? What does that look like?
He said, leave the hymn book.
Leave the hymn book and Bible at home. Go somewhere, put that cell phone down.
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick story. My wife, she went on a cruise by herself. I wasn't going, didn't want to get on the water. And she came back. She talked about how much fun she enjoyed it. So finally I went. And what my wife found, that I was working so much, even on my job, with the church. I had to be back. I don't care where we went. I want to be back Sunday morning for my congregation. But one thing about going on a cruise ship, you can't get back until the captain docks.
There you go.
And if you use that cell phone, then you have to pay international fees. Mm-hmm. So when that boat left port, I put that phone in the safe. And what I've learned, when you're on that 7-day cruise, whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
And you don't have any control of it. And since then, we've been cruising about 13 years. I try to go on 2 or 3 a year because it gives me the opportunity of serenity. It gives me the opportunity to just don't think about nothing. And that's what a lot of pastors are in need of, is that opportunity to go somewhere and 30 days to just free your mind. Sometimes it's good that a pastor goes sit under their own pastor let somebody preach to them.
That's good.
And let somebody minister to their heart. Yeah. Because when you are ministering to others, we preaching about ourselves or experiences, but they need to be ministered to where they just don't say nothing but amen and take a few notes and go back and do as the pastor told them to do.
Yeah. You know what? But here's the so Joiner, let me push back on you a little bit. You know how we do is we try to figure out. Now, let me just tell you my story. I am blessed at this point because it's still pastoring the church plant, 7 years old. I am blessed at this point. This will be my second year where I will have the opportunity to be able to take, you're talking about 30 days. I literally have the opportunity to take 30 days, 4 full weeks away from the church. I don't have to preach. I don't have to do a Bible study. I don't have to lead any small groups and all of that. But it happens during these summer months. Some pastors don't have that privilege of being able to do that. What do you suggest those pastors that don't have that privilege, whether they are in a rural area, whether they are, and like you said, I think sometimes that comes back to trust. You're like, this person gonna take my church while I'm gone. How do you get to that point? How do you urge them to get to that point?
Well, for me, I want to encourage him to become a part of the Delta Network and South Baptist State Convention. When we learn better, we do better.
I got you.
Yeah. And from that, it's just that I think it's a thing that we just hadn't been taught. And now that we have opened up ourselves to get out of the box, to learn different techniques and methods from other pastors, from other cultures, and we're able to sit at a table such as this and talk about these kind of issues, I think it helps the body of Christ. Yeah. Because after all, if the head is not healthy, how can the body become healthy? Yeah. And if we're about kingdom building, we have to be healthy in order to reach or connect with those that we're trying to reach in order to make the impact that Jesus lived. But if we're walking around half dead, then who wants to join? Who wants to become if I'm going to look like that?
That's right.
Well, the air flight attendant, when you're on the airplane 30,000 feet in the air, the first thing that they announce to you is, for you to take the oxygen mask and not for you to give it to your friend, your neighbor, your children, which our natural inclination for me as a father would be to care for my children and to make sure they're okay. But the flight attendant says, for you to, for that oxygen to be for you, because I can't save anybody else unless I save myself first. Yeah. And so we have to care for ourselves first from a holistic perspective before we can be a blessing and be able to impact anybody else. And so, hey, for a moment, I just want you to speak to that pastor, that planter. We're post-COVID. Their church is in a place right now where it's not healthy.
Yeah,
it's either about to dissolve, or it has dissolved. It's closed. That planter, that pastor, feels like a failure because they were not able to keep things going through COVID. They were not able to connect in COVID. They were not able to, keep it going and keep the church, keep the people in fellowship and connect. And everything has fallen apart. Everything has failed at this point. And they're dealing with anxiety. They're dealing with uncertainty right now. What would you say to that pastor that's dealing with the aftermath of COVID and their church is closing, is about to close, it's about to die, and particularly to the church planter, because planting a church during there, and there are some guys who planted church during COVID. COVID just, it really impacted the church. When it comes to a church planter, it was very difficult and very hard. So what would you say to that church planter or pastor who's at that place right now? They feel like a failure.
Well, first of all, I'm a firm believer there is no failure in God.
That's good.
I think that, and as I stated, when we learn better, we do better. For that pastor and that planter, it's never too late to connect with your people. It's Chanson, I remember during the pandemic, I was sitting in my chair and you sent me a text saying that, hey, I'm thinking about you on this sunny day, praying for you and whatever else you said. Mm-hmm. And I said, that was nice. That was good. And I took that ideal and ran with it. I changed it up and personally text every individual member of my church. And just that alone, I found out there were people who I hadn't been connecting with were sick. Some had dealt with some other issues and experience. And so it's never too late to connect. Then I would encourage them to reach out. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. And look, if you're going to pastor anybody, you're going to make mistakes. Yeah. And some just fail to make that connection. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. And then also, and just remember the impact that we want to make. When we have them on the phone, I think it's always proper to lift up Jesus. That's the impact of kingdom building. I don't believe that the hope is lost. I did quite a bit of reading throughout this pandemic. Mm-hmm. One of my books was Draw the Circle by Mark Batterson. Okay. A book that I encourage some pastors to get, Pastors as Counselors, Wise, Present, Sacred Conversation by John Patton. And there's a book that I'm starting to read, The Soulful Life, The Soulfulness of Birth to Death by Ron MacDonald. These are just some good readings for us just to enrich ourselves as we make the impact on others. So I think it's important that pastors who feel like they have let their congregations down is, number one, stop beating up on yourself. Yeah. Nobody had a blueprint. Everybody just felt their way. It's kind of like pin the tail on the donkey. You blindfolded and you just stick the pin anywhere you can. Some people put the tail on the head, some put it on the foot, some put it on the stomach, but there was no absolute. I think that what God has done for us, He's shown us that it wasn't about a building.
Yeah.
It was about us reaching people.
That's good.
So if we can still reach people, you're not a failure.
Yeah.
It's that when, even though the doors were closed, we still could text, we can email, we can do virtual service or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's what they need to do.
Man, that's
one thing.
that is, that's amazing. Like you said, it's those simple things that I think that we forget when we are dealing with something that is traumatic in our lives. Real quick, couple of things. I remember not too long ago. It's been about 3 years. My mother passed away, and both my mom and my dad passed away on a Saturday. So my mom passed away early on a Saturday morning. My dad passed away around noonish on a Saturday. And my wife would always ask me, "Are you going to preach the next day?" And after the death and the funeral service in urban community, you know how it goes. So if they die on a Saturday, we're gonna have the funeral the next Saturday. Mm-hmm. So you got to go through that whole week and deal with what you got to deal with, and then the rest of the grieving process happens. But I preached the Sunday after Sunday after when my dad passed away, Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, until one morning I woke up and I couldn't do it. And because we try to push ourselves to that point. But I finally got to the point, and you said this. You said, "Don't be afraid," and I'm putting words in your mouth. Don't be afraid of to trust the community that you're in. Don't be afraid to trust the community that you're part of. You mentioned the Arkansas Baptist State Convention. There are people that if you need an interim, you need somebody to fill in for a little while, that won't be there to fleece the sheep, but will be there to continue to shepherd, what you started or what you planted, whether you're a church planter or a pastor, to be a part of that. How important, when things are going well, do you think, and I'm just asking you, Joiner, how important is that community to a pastor while things are going well? How important is that community of other pastors or community of other counselors or whatever that you should have when things are going well? Is it important, or should you wait until there's a crisis to start to run and try to be a part of a community?
I think it's important while things are going great. I'm a big sports fanatic, and I'm watching the NBA finals. Those guys continue their exercise regimens throughout the playoffs. They don't just stop exercising. They go to the weight room. They get their walking in or running in. They go to the gym and shoot baskets to perfect their game. So when game time is on, it's what they practice. And I think when we learn to practice good habits, good self-help, self-nurturing habits, then it will be a continuation of what we're doing. So when bad times come, during the pandemic, everybody was working on building up their immune system.
Yeah.
Well, if we continue through prayer, through journaling, through reading and working on or challenging ourselves to our own growth and development, applying some of the things that we're going through to our own psychology, then you'll find that when crisis does come in our lives, it's not hard to lean on because we've already been doing these things.
Yeah.
And there was an old man told me a few weeks ago that I had to learn to wait on the process.
Wow.
And we just have to wait.
I think I know him.
We just have to wait on the process.
Yeah.
So when life throws us these obstacles, we just have to wait on the process, because some things that we go through will strengthen us.
Yeah.
If we just wait on the process.
Doc, that's good. That's good stuff. How important do you think, and I'm just going to ask you this, somebody told me not too long ago, they said if you're going to be a great leader, whether you're in the secular world, in the church world, wherever, that there are a couple of things that you need. You need good habits. Good, mental habits, like taking a rest and all that other stuff. You need a good community. And then they say you need a good therapist. How cool is that, or how appropriate is that? Not just during COVID, but just throughout during certain times. Would you agree with at least one or two of those?
I strongly agree with that.
Yeah.
As pastors, as men, we wear this big S on our chests. Mm-hmm. We're Superman, and nothing can penetrate us. But even watching Superman, his enemy was kryptonite.
Yes, sir. Come on.
Yes.
And for me, in January, mine was pneumonia.
Wow.
And I had heard enough about people who had experienced pneumonia in the past that it almost took them out. Mm. So when I experienced pneumonia, the 1st of January, I'll be more precise, January the 5th.
Wow.
From the 5th to the 22nd of when I went back for my return visit to the doctor, I took myself out of the game.
Yeah.
I sat down. I was quiet. I prayed. I had my famous chicken noodle soup. And I took the medicine like the doctor prescribed, and I didn't open my mouth. When you talked about calling other pastors, because of the convention, I met several very capable ministers, but I called Frederick Irby out of Ford City.
Yeah.
And it was virtual, but I called him and he graciously accepted the invitation and he spoke in my behalf. I watched it, didn't say nothing, thanked him, and I'm telling you, I learned from that. Mm. If you don't take care of yourself,
you can't take
somebody will be taking care of your congregation anyway, and you won't be here.
That's right.
So, look, I'm a living witness. And then when you talk about having a therapist, once again, we as tough men, we have to be able to vent. We have to be able to get a lot of this pressure off our mind. That's the reason a lot of us are dealing with high blood pressure and congestive heart failure, things like that, because we won't talk. And we walk around with all of these issues on our shoulders, and we are irritable. We have a lot of tension. We sweat. We have shaking or trembling and
can't sleep at night, all of that. Now, Basil, you didn't have to tell all of my business. You talking about me at that point. We used to talk about all of that. Dude, you talking about me.
No, it's just we have to talk about it. And I'm thankful throughout the pandemic that through you, Chanson, Willie Jacobs, Tim Wicker, there were a lot of different programs that was provided by the Arkansas Baptist State Convention that I was privy to link into, that it was just good, what I call self-help. Mm-hmm. And I think that the more of the pastors, church planners connect with that, then they'll find that they're not the only ones that has a leak in the boat. Yeah. Everybody, all of us had water coming in. We just didn't know where it was coming from.
Yeah. That's it. You know what? We always, Basil, I'm telling you, man, we really appreciate you. I know that there are a whole bunch of other things that we can kind of go into and talk about as far as therapists and self-care and all of that and overcoming those barriers and those deals. But a lot of times we want to pull out specifically with the bridge. I believe that you are the bridge, and I think you said it earlier, between mental health and clergy. And clergy. Mm-hmm. Because if we begin to realize that bridge is there, it feels like we're in a great gulf fixed, because we feel like that, we'll go to the doctor about a sprained leg or a sprained ankle or whatever, but we won't deal with about a strained mind. So there are a couple of things I just want to get your comment on. 3 things that I just heard you ask is, number one, these are my words, not yours. You'd see if you agree with it. If I say it wrong, I'm not real smart, as my wife tells me quite often. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Would that be a plus, or would that be a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
That's a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Always say a closed mouth never gets fed.
That's it, Doc. That's it. That's it. Yeah, don't be afraid. And Pat, we have to not be afraid to ask for help. I mean,
we cannot be afraid to ask for professional help.
Come on, Doc. There you go.
Not just help from anybody or just the good old boys or anybody that's going to pacify you, but you need help from professionals that will be able to strategically take you to a healthier place and that has a plan that'll help you get there. And so it's just not, barbershop talk.
Right.
I mean, barbershop talk, it's not going to do anything for you, but it'd be okay with getting professional help.
Yeah, and sometimes the professionals, unfortunately, that people go to are not a professional with a license or professional that has 2 decades of experience. They end up going to Evan and Jim and Johnny.
Shade Tree.
Shade Tree. No. I'm talking about Evan Williams, Jim Bean, and Johnny Walker Red. Those are the those are 3. Sometimes the people I don't know if we can say that. We may edit that out. But I digress. I'm just talking about my grandfather who used to do that. God rest his soul. Here's something else, Joiner, that I heard you say. These are my words, not yours. Trust the Lord with your mind.
Yeah.
Trust the Lord with your mind. Would that be a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
That's a thumbs up as well.
And you talked about prayer. We talked about prayer and all of that. But go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, prayer and my belief is, in all thy ways acknowledge him and he will direct our path. I think you gave one of the best analogies when you were talking about working with a sprained leg. So many times is that when people tell me they don't want to go to a hospital to get stable, they want to wait till tomorrow. I said, if you had broken your leg or broken your arm, or if your child had broken their leg or arm, would you wait till tomorrow to get it done, or would you go immediately to the emergency room? And that's the way we have to start teaching others about mental health, that it doesn't mean you're crazy. Mm-hmm. It just means that there's an issue there.
Right.
A lot of times people used to tell me, oh, you don't work hard. You don't do nothing. You walk around in a suit and you drive around and your expense accounts. And I tell them, I say a mental strain is always worse than a physical strain.
Right, there you go.
Right. Because if I sprain my wrist, I can put ice on it or some icy hot and keep going.
Right. Yeah.
But if I strain my brain, or and I can't function.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, and I'll let you go, is that one of the unique things about Arkansas Baptist State Convention that I found, and I don't like doing a lot of name dropping, but we have it right here at our disposal. Even over there with Derek Brown, I had the privilege of working with him with some new church planners. Listen, awesome. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to sit at his feet and work with him. my job was at that particular time to take notes because we were switching out. And we were halfway through a session before I realized that Derek was interviewing the couple. I sat there and got it all. I said, man, the techniques he's using, his approach to their problems, of getting them to express themselves. These are tools throughout the state of Arkansas that these church planners can tap into. And I'm sure that if he can't help, he can direct them to those in their particular areas that can help. So listen, I'm thankful for the resources. I'm thankful for being a part of this family, this convention. I'm just one that don't believe in reinventing the wheel. Let's tap into it and let's move forward and become more healthy, physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially.
There you go. That's it.
And I think the last takeaway from what you have, what you've said is create rhythms of Sabbath in your life.
Come on, Doc.
Create those regular rhythms of Sabbath and rest.
Yeah.
Jesus modeled it well for us. Jesus would get away from the crowd and he would just spend time with the Father in solitude, in silence. He would spend times meditating and just spend time with the Lord. And as God refreshed and renewed him for ministry, he went to God to be refueled and spent that time with the Father away from the hustle and bustle of ministry, hustle and bustle of life. And so we have to create those regular rhythms of Sabbath. It's okay. In our context, nobody, we feel as if, if I'm away from the desk, if I'm away from the pulpit, somebody else may take my place. Well, the church doesn't belong to me.
Come on, Dad.
It belongs to the Lord.
Yeah.
And I have to trust that, number one, I have to trust that I am to be a good steward over myself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have to be a good steward over myself. And if I take time away, it's going to benefit not only me, it's going to benefit the congregation. It's going to benefit my family, my children.
Yeah.
It's going to benefit everyone. And so just create those regular rhythms. In the summertime, as when this will be aired, is, great time for you to take those incremental times of taking a vacation, as you said. Yeah. You don't have to go on a cruise, but you can just go somewhere, do something, and just create those times of disconnecting to connect with the Father.
Yeah, that's real good. Soon to be Dr. Basil Joiner. Soon to be Dr. Basil Joiner. I don't know. We're going to find out. Doc, we really appreciate you, man, just for sharing your wisdom and your insight, man, and being a part of the bridge. We're brand new, but you've been bridging the gap for a very long time, and we're grateful that you're a part of the Arkansas Baptist State Convention.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure as well as an honor. And I'm going to use that, Chanson, create the rhythms of rest.
Yes,
and
sir. Yeah,
I'm going to go with when Jesus was on the ship, sleep, when they said, Master, cares not that we perish.
Stop, Doc. Stop.
Yeah, he gonna stop preaching. Hey, Basil mentioned a couple of books, a couple of titles. We're gonna have those in the show notes. Also, some of the things that we mentioned as well. Those will be in the show notes, whether you're part of the Arkansas Baptist State Convention or not. Or we can direct you to where in your particular area you can receive help. Email us at thebridge@absc.org. The Bridge, THE Bridge. At absc.org. Basil Joiner, Pastor Basil Joiner, a behavior health specialist here in the state of Arkansas. So glad that you've decided to join us talking about healthcare. Thank you for joining us for another episode of
The Bridge.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Bridge. We hope you learned something new and found some encouragement along the way. To learn more about church planting in Arkansas and to find more resources, visit absc.org and click the Church Planting tab. If you have a story, question to share, or a creative idea, email us at The Bridge at absc.org. Be sure to rate and review if you liked what you heard.